like the main reason why I'm even trying to explain all of this is for new technologists and people that really don't understand what goes on in the laboratory. What I want to talk about in this video is just a lot of things that like new lab techs don't realize when you first start working, and basically what really goes on in the laboratory. Like, I've seen a few videos of people like showing their life as a lab tech, and they'll be like showing like the calm moments, because that's the only moments that you can like actually show. Like, they won't touch on any of like the hard stuff that goes on. They just touch on what we do in general. But what I'm gonna touch on is like the actual difficult things that happen. There's just certain times where there's just so much dysfunction and chaos going on all at once. Times like in the morning, they have like a morning rush from like 4 a.m. to like 7 or 8 a.m. And it's like for 4 or 5 hours, the laboratory just gets a rush of samples, because the nurses are usually doing like their morning draws and stuff like that. So yeah, usually during those times, that's when it could get like really, really chaotic, where you just have to be thinking on your feet, and you just have to be working off of pure adrenaline sometimes. Laboratories, you're not allowed to keep like any water or food like near the equipment. For one, it could get contaminated with, because like the laboratory is exposed to every disease, every illness you can think of. The point is that sometimes when you're moving off of pure adrenaline, you get dehydrated and you get extremely tired. For some reason, like, you always have to deal with machines just like randomly stopping, or things just randomly not working in the most inconvenient moments. Like, sometimes the machines, they're pretty old. Some of these hospitals, they have really old machines, like talking like 7-10 years old. And sometimes those machines, they can't deal with the workload of the pandemic. So sometimes they just get real moody and they just decide to stop. Oh my gosh, these people are taking so long in this drive-thru. I'm in Pollo Tropical and I did not want to get stuck. Oh, thank God she finally got her food. Okay. Anyway, I be nosy. Anyway, I think we're moving up. Oh no, yes, Lord. Oh, yes. You really got to think on your feet. You really have to problem solve, because you're going to encounter samples that are like critical. You're going to encounter samples that just have the wrong labels. You're going to encounter samples that are just really, really messed up, or you don't even have enough blood to be running all the tests that are ordered on the sample. Like, for those little inconveniences, you really have to make sure that you can like problem solve quickly, so that way you can get the results out like as fast as you can. At the end of the day, you just really don't want to have results that are like hours late, because that does not look good on anyone. But it happens, and the sad thing is, it happens all the time. Each machine has its own daily maintenance that the technologist has to perform, and sometimes on certain like these large machines that literally cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, they take so long to do the maintenance. They'll be down for just a daily maintenance for at least like 3 to 4 hours. And we're back. I am out of the drive-thru. So moving on to the next topic, I wrote down on a whiteboard of like, I know it looks crazy, just all the stuff I need to touch up on, because I don't want to make this like a super long video, and I don't want to do too much editing, so we're just going to go right through all the points. So I already touched up on the machines. I think the last thing I was talking about the machines was that, oh yes, every machine in the laboratory, they all go through maintenance protocols, and there's a daily, a weekly, and a monthly maintenance that you have to perform on the machine, because as technologists, we're not only responsible for the samples that come in, we're also responsible for making sure that all the machines in your department or your specific bench are working properly. Okay, moving on to the next point. Next point that schools don't really teach you is all of the unorganization that actually happens in the laboratory. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. That's why I just felt so like empowered and moved to actually say something about this, because earlier this week I had to deal with so much disorganization, so much dysfunction, and I just had to call out my manager and my supervisor on it. And it was the first time that I actually did that in my career. And the craziest thing is, it's not like I walked into there, like I felt angry on the inside, looking around and having to deal with unorganization. No one's really communicating what's happening. So the machine would go down for maintenance. It would be the hardest thing to get it back up and running, because certain things wouldn't work. And it's like machines that are that huge, you can't just turn them off and turn them back on. Like, you're really not supposed to be turning off the machine, like completely off, unless something is really, really wrong. So it's not like you can just turn it off and turn it back on and it resets itself. Like, that's not how it works. Like, these machines are so sensitive, yet they just be acting moody and acting crazy sometimes. So anyway, there was so much dysfunction going on with the machine, and we're extremely short staffed. So there was, long story short, I was observing my environment and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna say something, because this is like, I'm like beyond irritated at this point. I just need some type of clear communication. No one was having clear communication until I said something about it. Once I actually brought it to their attention that I see there's dysfunction going on, no good communication, the next day they actually started treating me with some respect. They actually started communicating. And it was like, you have to figure out how to do this in like a very professional way without allowing your emotions to just override the conversation. Because if I let my anger and my irritation override the conversation, it could have went a lot differently, you know. So you have to try to be professional about it, even though your emotions are like heightened. You may be irritated, you may be stressed out, that you have all this pressure on your shoulders. Like, when it comes to your supervisor or your manager, you just got to be able to finesse. That's all it was. It was all finesse. Because as soon as I let them know that I was not happy with what was going on and we needed to have a better communication system, like literally the next day they started talking to me differently. They actually started telling me what was going on. And like, you know, we were, I don't know, it was like this something, I just felt like something developed inside of me. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't put the word on it, but it was courage. That's what it was. I had like finally just like built up enough courage. Instead of just always taking directions, I was trying to give directions. Nobody teaches you in school how to let your higher up administration know that they're not doing their job. Like, you know, sometimes you just have to finesse and figure that out yourself. Okay, and another thing is, schools don't let you know that everybody up in there is going to be underpaid. People really think that just because you're a scientist in the laboratory, people think you're making bank, when in reality, like, you are when you're young.